Hey everyone, thanks for tuning back in. You're watching the In Deep on the Delta rundown for the, the Wild West team tournament that was held last Saturday. And I told you I would talk about what we did, my partner Troy and I, to fish the tournament and how we prepared. And I'm going to give you guys a full rundown on that. Again, if you're not familiar, it's a Wild West tournament, team tournament, held out of Big Break last Saturday, which I believe was the 17th. Conditions were not pretty. 20 to 25 mile an hour winds. Just not a great day to be out here. It was tough tournament conditions, and the fish just weren't biting. There were right around 140 boats, and if you look through the results, you're going to see some of the biggest sticks on the Delta were out here. And it's a team tournament, so it's just not one guy trying to catch a fish. Two guys working together. It took, I forget, I want to say 17 pounds cash to check. Middle of the pack, 70th place was about 10.5 pounds. I believe there was about 20 to 30 guys that did not weigh a fish. There were, I think, 50 some that were under 10 pounds. That is tough fishing conditions. So I just want to put that out right now, and I want to congratulate Mark Lusane and Jody White. They had 25.5. You got a boat coming up here. They had 25.5 to win the tournament, and that's a good weight. But coming into this thing, BBT, Future Pro, they were putting out 35-pound bags. My thinking coming into the tournament was I wanted to have, if I was going to have a good showing, I wanted 25 pounds, and I was not getting that. I was figuring there was going to be several bags in the upper 20s and over 30. So congratulations to Mark and Jody with 25 pounds, but not a super weight for this time of year on the Delta. Second was Ken Ma and Jason Austin, and they went down to 22.9. Third place was Mike Andrews and Philip Dutra. They were 22.5, 22.6. So, you know, that's tough fishing conditions. I just want to put that out before I go into what we were doing. So, it had a 1 week cutoff period. So let's go back to pre-fishing. I spent about 4 days pre-fishing the week before the tournament. The legal week before the tournament. I'm fishing with my partner Troy, who is from Redding, and Troy is not a Delta guy. He's only fished the Delta a few times. My first day I went out and I ran around to some places that I had been catching fish. I stayed in the central Delta and I went north. I had been catching a few fish on chatterbaits and worms and an occasional fish on topwater. I made my milk run, did not do very well. I caught a few fish, nothing big. All the fish that I had been seeing that were up close, because the weather conditions had moved out, and I was not happy with that first day. But it is, you know, it's a long period here. I had 3 or 4 days to fish, pre-fish it. I'm figuring I'm going to find something. So Troy comes in the next day. We go out. And I wanted to, because Troy has only fished the Delta a couple times, I wanted to take him around to show him everything that's out here so that he can kind of mentally prepare his arsenal coming up and just kind of figure out and see what we were fishing. So we did a little bit of everything, and I think, geez, we put in a 10-hour day, and again, we started at Paradise Point. We ran up to the sloughs far north. We went McCollum. We went to, you know, fished up and down the channel. We went up to almost Edo's, fished up that way. We didn't go south. We struggled to get 5 fish, and they weren't big fish. We may have had 10 pounds, and I mean, and that was a 10-hour day. So not a great day. Troy takes off. I decide I've got to do something different. Something came up, and I forget, I was going to fish 2 days. I was able to go out, and I think what I did one day was I had to do a report or something, and I really didn't get a whole lot of fishing in. But the Saturday, the last day before cutoff, I was able to go out, and I saw fish in one area, and that area was about a 50-yard section of bank, and there were a lot of big fish. I didn't want to really, I wanted to catch a fish, I wanted to get a few bites, but I didn't want to overwork them. Even though they were going to be, it was going to be a week before the tournament, I didn't want to overwork the one place that I knew that there were fish. I caught a few fish, bucks with worms. I was not getting anything punching. I caught one 3.5 pound fish on a topwater, and the fish, this is what I caught that fish on. And you guys know I love these bubble walkers, and it gave me a little hope that if the water temperature moved up a little bit, maybe those fish in a week would be taking topwater. Tried some other topwater baits, didn't do real well on those, didn't do well on pretty much anything. I might have caught one fish on a chatterbait. But here's the thing, I lost all of my green pumpkin jackhammers, which I had 3 of them, and in the last 2 weeks I lost 3 jackhammers. So I was not able to fish a green pumpkin jackhammer, and when I was fishing those, I was fishing them with a bunch of different trailers. Now, we're going to get into this because I think this was a key. You guys know the trailer that I like is this Man's Reelin' Shad. They don't make them anymore. I am hoarding these things, and I had to call a tackle warehouse, had them ship me some green pumpkin jackhammers. I took these out and I put it on there for the tournament because that is my go-to chatterbait, and we're going to get into that in just a little bit. So where was I? Okay, I found the fish, couldn't catch them, moved around to a bunch of spots that were just like that, and I was just not finding fish. At this point, I'm not real happy with the practice, and it is what it is. I've got one place that I want to go to. We're going to look at start really looking at the tides and the weather for the day of the tournament, and we're going to have to let the chips fall where we may. So Troy comes up or comes down from Shasta Friday night. I tell him the game plan. We look at a map. We're knowing that there's going to be 20 to 25 mile an hour breeze. We're going out a big break, and you know, I'm running a Vexus AVX 20-foot boat, but it's aluminum. And this boat doesn't ride like a tracker, it doesn't ride like an aluminum boat, but on the other hand, it doesn't ride like a 20-foot Ranger. And when we're talking about coming out a big break and fishing Frank's Track or areas like that, having to go a long ways, that was a concern in this boat. Not that the boat won't ride in that kind of condition, but it's going to be a lot slower than a lot of other boats. So the area that I had picked out was close to a 20-mile run. It was in the Central Delta, and I told Troy, I said, we just got to put our eggs in one basket and hit that basket and see what happens. And I'm really concerned that this area that I'm in is a known area, and there's going to be other boats in the area. But we didn't have a lot to go on. We knew we were going to have to get close to 20 pounds even to maybe think we're going to cash a check. So the plan was to leave. We're going to skirt around Frank's Track, go into the Central Delta, and take the small little sloughs to keep out of the big water. We take off. We're 58, which is 58 was our blast off number, which wasn't bad. There, like I said, there was about 140 boats. It was the weekend. We knew there was going to be other boat traffic, and I think there was another tournament out there on that particular day. So we take off. We wanted to cut across Frank's Track. We looked out there, and the weather wasn't bad. We cut across Frank's Track. We get into the Central Delta. We get in our first area, and I see 5 or 6 boats, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is not good. This could be a bad situation, because my second, third, and fourth plan are just not that good. Looked over at the bank that I wanted to fish, and again, it was a 50-yard section of bank, and nobody's around. I said, Troy, we got to get over there, and we got to commandeer that spot and start fishing it. We get out. We start fishing. Troy gets the first fish on an unweighted Wacky Rig Cinco Green Pumpkin. It's about 2.5 pounds, and he catches it about 5 minutes after we've been into the day. So we were really happy because remember, we're struggling to get 5 fish, and we've got a 2.5 pounder in the boat. Well, we didn't actually weigh that fish. Maybe it was 2 to 2.25 pounds, but we had. I'm going to call it, for me, the way the fishing was, that was a solid fish. I'm thinking the first thing we have to do is get 5 fish in the boat. And remember, Ken Ma, one thing that I've listened to Ken a lot, and he says the first 5 fish are all big fish, and I believe that. You got to have those fish in the boat to at least get some confidence, and that was a confidence builder. Now, Troy kept on with the worms. I went to my bait, 1/2 ounce jackhammer with the man's reeling shad. That's the bait right there that I was throwing. I'd say it was about 5 minutes after Troy got his 2.25. I stick a 5.5 with that bait. Get it in the boat, put it in the live well, and I just like I told you in my report, I said, Troy, we've got to be on our best behavior for the next 20-30 minutes, because usually when these big fish bite, they bite, and it's a short window. I go 5 more minutes, I stick a 6.5, same bait, right there. Troy decides he better put on a jackhammer. He puts on a jackhammer. We start throwing them. About 15 minutes later, I get a 5, I don't know, mid-5, same bait, jackhammer. We pick up a couple more fish, and by 8:30 we have right at 20 pounds, maybe a little over. And I'll just tell you, we wound up with just a little under 21 pounds. That was good for 11th place. So at this point, we're not talking about things are going pretty good, but I'm thinking we're going to have 25-30 pounds. We've got 20 pounds in the boat. It's 8:30. We have 6.5 hours, 6.5 hours to get 2 bites. All we need is a couple more solid fish, and I think we can do that. The area that we're fishing, nobody's in. We're going to just work that area, and we're going to work it until we can't work it anymore, and we're going to get a couple of big fish. So I'm feeling pretty good about what we're doing. That bite lasted for about 40 minutes, and then it dropped. It coincided with the wind blowing maybe 10 to 12 miles an hour to kicking up to 20 to 25, and there was a temperature drop, and I think that front that came in knocked the bite off. We continued to fish that area back and forth, and we started picking up males, but no big fish. I continued to throw the chatterbait hard. I also, because I knew we just needed a couple of big fish, I threw this buzzbait right here, black and red buzzbait, and I was throwing that to get one big bite. I threw that pretty hard, on and off all day. I did not get bit on that. I went directly back to my walking bait because I thought maybe they wanted a little subtle, more of a subtle action. Couldn't get bit on this guy. The water, the wave action and everything was just not conducive to throwing smaller baits. I went to the bigger walker, hopefully to get a bite on this. Could not get bit on that. And here's a smaller plopper, but I also put on the bigger plopper. I think it's the 168 or whatever it is, the 5-inch. Could not get bit topwater, and I tried throwing those just to see if I couldn't get that one big bite. Now Troy was picking up fish on his wacky worm, and he was throwing a 6-inch green pumpkin, and he's also throwing a Berkeley power worm on that, and he was upgrading our fish by about 1 ounce every fish. We ended up catching about 15 fish, and we probably called 7 or 8 fish, but we were calling 1 ounce at a time. We'd we'd have a 2-2 and we call up to 2-3, then we get a 2 pound. We caught a lot of fish between right in that mid 2. We couldn't get anything over mid 2. That's what brought us up to almost 21 pounds. And most of those came on a green pumpkin wacky worm. Troy also was fishing different baits. He threw a lot of jerk baits, and he did maybe call one fish on a jerk bait, and he got 3 or 4 that were, you know, in that 2.25 pound, not big enough to really call, but the jerk bait was catching some fish. I will tell you the difference between us in 11th place and us in 100th place was 50 yards of bank, and it was maybe 35 minutes of fishing. We fished hard as we could all day. It was a little disappointing. Again, with the level of competition out there, I'll take an 11th place any day of the year. I'm looking at guys out there that I have no business fishing against and had very tough days. So I am not complaining about having 21 pounds or whatever it was. I was a little disappointed that we could not call up. All it would have taken was another 3-pound fish. If we had a couple of 3-pound fish, we could have been right up there, you know, among maybe the top 3. So that was a little disappointing. But the moral of the story is, as I've been telling everyone out here, I don't want to call it luck, and I don't want to pat myself on the back. I found the fish out there. That was my only hope, that those fish were going to bite. I didn't know that they were going to bite. I was staying up late at night, pacing in front of my couch, thinking, what happens if those fish don't bite? Where am I going? And it wasn't, hey, I think I'm going out there and we're going to win this thing. There was a lot of question marks, and that one 50-yard stretch of bank paid off, and that was the difference. And it was not only that stretch of bank, but a half an hour. The thinking that I was thinking after that, while we were catching these fish, and I want to say one more thing. I dropped one fish that was probably 3.5 pounds, again, on the green pumpkin chatterbait. Everything that was over, the big fish were all on a green pumpkin chatterbait. And I was thinking that if the fishing continues like it is, it's going to be a difficult tournament, because there's going to be some 35-pound bags come in, and we're going to need 25 pounds to place. When that bite shut off and we could not get bit for the next hour and a half, one side of me was saying, darn, the other side was saying, that's a good thing, because the guys that are out here fishing, if they're not on their spot at the right time, in the right place, they're not going to get those fish, and it's going to be very hard for them to grunt for the rest of the day to put together a big bag. And that's exactly how it went down. So that's the rundown for our tournament. Very happy with an 11th place. We did as well as we could. We fished hard. I hope that gave you guys some information on just kind of how we went about it. I'm not a big-time tournament fisherman. The way I go about preparing for a tournament is probably a lot different than what a lot of the more experienced guys do, but that's what worked for us. I don't know what these guys were using that were in the top 3, but knowing a couple of the guys, I am thinking that punching probably came into play with some of their stuff. And we did try punching, but we just didn't have any luck, and the areas that we were fishing were just too much wave action to get in and punch, you know, with any confidence. The boat was very hard to position in, and we were in areas that I couldn't use the power poles. And we did move around the central delta to about 5 or 6 spots when after about an hour and a half of fishing our prime area, we started moving around a little bit. We didn't go far, but we fished some of my main points and some of my main banks, and we fished them very fast, just like I'm talking about, kind of carpet bombing areas, going to a point, making a half a dozen casts, and these are prime areas, and hoping to get that one big fish, but nowhere else panned out. I think we caught a couple of small fish, but we didn't call anything on any of my other spots other than the 50-yard section of bank that we got the fish on. Now, I won't tell you exactly where that was. It was in the Central Delta, and it's a very unlikely spot. It's tule, it's rock, it's tule, it's rock. It's, you know, it's just, the fish were there, and luckily I found them in practice. If I didn't find them, it would have been probably a disaster for us. So keep looking out there, move around a lot, find your fish, and if you can see them, stay on those fish, and try different techniques, try different times of the day, try different weather patterns. Keep going back there until either you can see that they've disappeared or you've caught the fish. So hopefully, thank you guys for watching. If you want more tournament information, send me something. Say, hey Steve, I want to hear about what you guys are doing on the tournaments that you fish. We have one more tournament in the Wild West team, and that is next month on Clear Lake. The standings, I think we're 18 in the standings, so hopefully we'll make the cut for the Tournament of Champions, which is going to be held in October on McClure. So with that, hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and hey, keep watching. Watch some of my videos if you haven't, and I go through everything that I know when it comes to fishing, things like my favorites like the chatterbaits, and also I have a video on my other favorite bait, the bubble walker, and I also have a couple of worming videos. And I want to be honest with you guys, what I'm talking about in the videos, the last video I did was a carpet bombing video, and it had to do with how I fish a lot of the worms out here. That's exactly how we were fishing the day of the tournament. I'm not holding anything back. I love sharing information with you guys, and if you do watch some of those videos and you have something to add that you don't mind me talking about, say, hey Steve, I do that same thing, but I do it a little differently, and this is the trailer I like, or this is what I don't do the same thing you do. Let me know, and that's how us common guys share information and get better. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.